The title of this episode is Does the World Determine If You Open or Close? This will be a short podcast because if you've listened to these podcasts, I think you can answer that question pretty easily for yourself without a lot of you know explanation for me. What I found to be true for me is that I experienced a lot more bliss and joy, contentment and fulfillment when I determine whether or not I open or close. And with a commitment to the practice and working on being conscious, I found that I am more open than I am closed. And I think that, if you talk to people that know me, they will say that this is true for me, true of Keith, for Keith over the last, 10 years and getting better and better, with each passing year, I become better at it because I have more and more practice, more reps. But whatever happens on the outside, oftentimes we have little to no control over that. But what happens on the inside, we have 100% control over that. Now, if you are a person who is like the way that I used to be, you will find a lot of ways to argue with that. But then you just take a look at other people that are in a similar situation as the one that you might be going through. And how in the world are they able to stay open in the face of that? Now, I can't answer that for them. I can only answer that for me, having been on both sides of that. When things didn't go my way, I remember how I would allow those things to close me. And having worked on myself, I remember I also have examples of things not going the way that I think, they should go or go my way. And because I've been working on myself, I have a completely different experience with them than I would have in the past. And that is because I am completely aware that I can control what happens on the inside. Take something as simple as the weather. Before the Arizona summers would send me into a state of 4 to 5 months of daily complaining and filing grievances with anyone who would listen about the heat and how hot it was. That does not happen anymore. The same thing is about some of the leadership decisions that happen. When I was in the military and several jobs after that, I'll complain about how the decisions that leadership made just made no sense. Now, I don't do much of that. And in the instances in which I have done it over the last, 4 or 5 years, what I've done is recognize that I'm suffering over something, taking the time to be with it, to understand, okay, what is exactly that's going on that's causing me suffering? And that starts out with me identifying something on the outside first. And then I start to say to myself, why do I have an inability to handle this? It's like, oh, okay. They're getting credit for something. They're getting the credit for something that I helped with or something that I was responsible for. Oh, I don't like sharing credit. Or I think I deserve the credit. And then once I identify that that's the reason that I'm suffering, I'm able to let that go. Like, I don't need credit. At a place like Mayo Clinic, I'm here to serve. In ToBeRe, I'm here to serve. Now, that did not happen overnight because I was a person that apparently needed credit. I will tell you that I did, but let me not get it and see what happens. Inside, there's a storm brewing, but I had a lot of practice, of not getting credit or name not being mentioned or acknowledged, feeling myself become bothered inside. And then after being aware of that, I decided to make another choice. And that choice was to let it go because I'm the boss inside of here, regardless of what's going on. And if we take that to other issues that some people may say that are more serious, let's say that the political climate and how it affects society. I remember being bothered about that too. Now, being bothered about it and caring about it, in my opinion, are two different things. Being bothered about it means that I'm suffering inside. Caring about it means that I'm aware of how my heart and mind are responding to whatever is happening on the outside. As the observer, I can distinguish between the two of what my heart and mind are, how they're responding to how I, as a boss inside the consciousness, wants to respond to what's going on. And in that case, I want to orient my heart in being open and my mind in being open to ask the question that with what's going on, if we're going to do something that was constructive, that was kindness centered, that was positive and loving, how would we contribute? How would we respond with action to this particular situation? That's much different than my heart and mind being bothered, because my heart and mind and being bothered are not interested in keeping, being open, being loving, being kind in response to this, to all parties that are part of the situation. Now, maybe one party it may be advocating for, but the other party it is making a complete enemy. I don't want to do that. I want to keep an open heart and be kind to all of humanity, regardless of whether or not all of humanity feels the same way about me. That's their path. My path is to live this way. And so I am very grateful for this practice that allows me to be really thoughtful in how in answering the question that is the title of this podcast. Does the world determine whether you open or close? And in my case, the world does not determine that. I do. And I make a conscious choice every single day to wake up and be open. And I hope you'll do the same.